everyone, welcome to today's lecture. So today we'll be looking at data analysis. So till now we have seen that how we collect data, and the data analysis is an important step because this is where we will synthesize all our gathering of the data that we have done to make some sense out of it. So this is a process where the data that we collect is analyzed and we interpret it, and we also derive insights out of it to make sense of all that we have collected so far. And this data is used to identify patterns and themes, and therefore we can draw insights and we can make assumptions based on our findings. So data analysis helps the designer in several ways. So one is to form relationships and patterns in data. So we will see in the next few slides that how some data that we gather, we always try to find whether the data is making some relationship with the other data that we have collected, because we are trying to generalize the data. We are trying to see that how many, for example, how many people prefer design A out of 5 different designs. So that helps us understand some repetitive patterns that are there, that there are certain features because of which the customer prefers the design A. So that's an example of that, how we can form some patterns and relationships. The other is to derive meaningful insights and draw conclusions. So conclusions as in why certain features of design A are more preferred over design B or C. So that helps us come to conclusion that probably X, Y and Z features are what make this design more desirable out of the other designs that we have come up with, and also leads to the stakeholders and designers towards the decision making step. And overall, in the same example, we can then see that once we know that what features are really desirable and what design or prototype would be preferred by a larger number of people, so that helps the designer and the team make decisions that which design to take forward. So if you recall, in one of the previous lectures we had discussed several different methods in which we had discussed the dot voting method for idea finalization. And if you recall that out of all the ideas that are put up on the wall in front of the team, and with the help of different colored dots, they have to mark the attributes that are present in the design. So for example, affordability or easy manufacturability, or maybe the creativity or certain other aspects. And then based on that, the design which has the highest number of those dots, so those designs are then further filtered. So it helps the team understand that which design or a few designs out of the larger number of ideas that have been generated, that which hold more potential. So this also helps in making the decision that which design or idea one should take forward. So now data analysis, broadly if we say, we can say that it is qualitative data analysis, quantitative data analysis and categorical data analysis. So we have discussed the qualitative and quantitative in previous lectures as well, and we know that qualitative data is a data which does not have numbers. So we do not have the quantity, it gives us the quality, and for that the various ways in which we can get this data is by conducting interviews, focus group interviews, and observations and other techniques, and these gives us those deeper insights into how people are thinking and going about the decision making process. Now the advantages of qualitative data are that it provides us with in-depth analysis, because here again, using open-ended or close-ended or semi-structured and structured approach. So depending on what we are going ahead with, but nevertheless qualitative data always gives us a lot of information about the user and how they are using the product, or what problems are they facing, or what would they like in a product, or their pain points. We have discussed that earlier as well. So this gives us in-depth analysis, and it helps us to empathize with the users, because we have seen that how pain points they can explain better when we are conducting qualitative rather than quantitative, because in the quantitative the options are limited, but in qualitative they can also expand on their experience. They can also tell us and take us through their experience, or they can show us their good or bad experience with a certain product, for example. And also valuable data, because this data is telling us about what they are seeing, what they are feeling, what they are thinking. So all of that data is very important for the design team to formulate it further and come up with the insights. So it gives a lot of this deeper thought process of the user to the design team as well. So it becomes very valuable for the entire team. But some of the disadvantages are that they are harder to generalize, because out of say 10 people, the 5 people may have certain opinion, and then the opinion may be similar in varying degree. So not all of those 5 people also who have similar opinion will have the same opinion. So it is little bit harder to generalize, because pain points for some of them may be different from the other participants. So it gets a little difficult to apply the same findings on the larger population. So that is one disadvantage. And the other is that it is time consuming, because it's a lengthy process. Because when we are conducting interviews or even focus group interviews, so we are sitting with the participant face to face, and depending on whether it is open ended interview, so the discussion will be more like a conversation. And because the researcher will try to understand, if they're trying to understand the problem they are facing, for example, so they will try to understand this from many different angles. And to understand that one problem, they may have to formulate the question in many different ways depending on the situation, how open the respondent is, or are they comfortable, are they forthright, are they honest with what they are telling the researcher. So the researcher may have to ask the question in many different ways to arrive at the answer. And also one answer may lead to another question, and so on. So that will also make this whole process quite lengthy and time consuming. So that is another disadvantage. So we can see here that the qualitative data analysis, we can split this into two ways. One is deductive approach and the other is inductive approach. So the deductive approach is where it involves analyzing qualitative data based on a structure that the researcher predetermines. So there is an idea that the researcher already has, and then they go ahead with this particular approach. So the deductive approach generally starts with a general theory or a hypothesis and then tests it with the specific observations. So it moves from a broad general premise to a more specific conclusion. So if we take an example, a small example of the deductive approach, we can say that we start with a theory which says that all fruits that contain vitamin C, they help in boosting the immune system. So here we are starting with a hypothesis, or we are starting with a theory, and which says that all fruits contain vitamin C. And now what we are hypothesizing here is, or what our hypothesis here is, that an orange contains vitamin C, so it will help boost my immune system. So that this is my hypothesis, that since theory says that all fruits have vitamin C, so orange will boost my immune system. And then my observation will be, because I have to prove my hypothesis either right or wrong, so my observation will say that when I eat an orange, I notice that over time my immune system improves. So that is my observation, which I may have conducted over several weeks or months to find that my immune system actually has improved for the better. So my conclusion would be that my hypothesis is confirmed. The orange helped boost my immune system. The other way could be that it did not do anything to my immune system, and so I say that my hypothesis is not right, so it did not boost my immune system. But when we come to the other approach, which is the inductive approach, so it is not based on any predetermined structure like we saw in the deductive approach, and it is more time consuming and a thorough approach. So now this approach is usually used when the researcher has very little information about this particular area that they are trying to research. And this, contrary to the deductive approach, starts with a specific observation and then moves towards a broader generalizations and theories. So we are reversing the order here that we had followed in deductive approach. So taking the same example of the fruits, so here the observation will be that I have eaten oranges, strawberries, kiwis and other fruits, and they all contain vitamin C. So that is my observation, and based on my observation I will formulate a pattern which will be that these fruits seem to boost my immune system whenever I consume them. So I've been observing that once I eat these vitamin C rich fruits, my immune system seems to get better. And now my generalizations that I will come up with will be that fruits which contain vitamin C, so they help boost the immune system. So here, if you notice, we have just reversed the pattern, where initially we started with the understanding that vitamin C, which is in fruits, boosts immune system. Here we are coming up with the finding or generalizing that fruits improve the immune system. So although this example is something that maybe we all are aware of, that vitamin C helps improve the immune system, but in cases where the researcher is unsure of what will be the outcome, so here the inductive approach helps, because we are not starting with any hypothesis, but we are arriving at an answer at the end of our approach. Now, quantitative data is the data which deals with numbers. So it is quite opposite to the qualitative data, where we had a lot of information, long sentences and conversations. So here it is all numerical data, and here we will be finding patterns and averages. We will also be finding patterns in qualitative data, but that will be different from the pattern that we will be coming up with in the quantitative data, because here it will be more based on numbers, and that data will tell us where our insights are leaning or what is the outcome of our findings. So the data that we collect is, as we discussed in the previous lectures also, that where we have to, for example, fill in the Likert scale, which is which is a 5-point Likert scale. So based on the question that is posed, so the respondent will take 1, 2, 3, 4 or 5, and then all of those points will be added up. So that will give us a pattern. It will show the generalization of the preferences or problems or whatever it is that the researcher is trying to find out. So some of the advantages of the quantitative data are that we can conduct direct comparison of results. So if we are trying to find out about the preference of customers for two different products, for example, and they have the attributes that are listed, and we are wanting the users to tick the different attributes of both the products, then we can very easily compare that, for example, in ease of use in product A, maybe the user will tick 4, that very usable, and for product B they may tick the point 2, which may stand for not very usable. So that will give us a very clear information that which product A or B, which is more easy to use. And similarly, we can have several other points on which the user will be sort of giving their preference, and that will help us understand the comparison between the two products, and that will give us the information at which is a more desirable product out of the two. At the same time, we can also collect large samples, because this is a more easy way to conduct this data collection. Easy in the sense that because it does not require face-to-face conversation, because we may, like I said, we may conduct this as a questionnaire, or wherein it may be a yes-no kind of a requirement, or a Likert scale, or other ways that we have discussed earlier. So now the user may be handed over a paper, a physical questionnaire, or we may send it through email or through some of the other groups like WhatsApp groups or other these mediums. So because of this, it becomes easy for the researcher to reach to a large number of people and gather data rather quickly. So when a face-to-face conversation or interview may consume say 2 or 3 hours, now in that same amount of time the researcher may be able to reach out to 100 people and get the responses of those 100 people. So it is faster and larger samples are also achievable. Hypothesis testing. So if we have a hypothesis, so it is, this medium is far better medium to get the insights of a larger number of people for checking of the hypothesis, and we can easily generalize it because we can reach a large number of people. So we can cover a larger number of population and we can easily generalize it because the numbers will tell us on which side or which direction the opinion is leaning towards. So that will help us generalize the findings as well. Now some of the disadvantages of the quantitative data are that we are not able to capture the emotions as well as we can do in the qualitative. So here also we may ask some questions which are pointed towards how they are feeling, but again because it is quantitative, so the options will be limited. So the emotion that they are feeling may not be justified in those points in the 5-point Likert scale or yes or no type of answer. So that can be disadvantage. Then because we're dealing with numbers, so certain skill set is required to actually work with those numbers and come up with the final findings. And this data, although it helps us in generalization that we saw as an advantage, but the disadvantage on the other hand can be that it can lead to over generalization. So sometimes again in the quantitative data analysis, in quantitative data gathering, sometimes we don't know whether this data that we have collected is correct or whether there is some error in this data because we are not with the respondent while they are filling it up. So because of several reasons, their day not going well or for some other personal reason, or maybe they have a headache or some other issue, so they may not answer the question correctly or they may not tick the right answer. So there can be several reasons because of which the answer that is generated is not really the correct data, and that can spoil the whole data pool and it may show the generalization although it may not exist. Or even if the generalization is there, sometimes we have to overlook the generalization and see that what exactly is it that people desire, because there may be certain pain points that the quantitative data is not able to capture quite as well as the qualitative would do. So here the intellect of the research team becomes very important, that what questions or what the answers they are seeking to those questions, how are they framing those questions for those particular questions, whether the quantitative approach is better or qualitative is better. So that all will depend on the understanding of the research team that which method they should use. And also it is limited to numbers and figures because it is a quantitative data, so it is all about numbers and figures. So here, like we saw that the emotions are missing as a disadvantage, so that is another disadvantage, that we will just see all of the responses in terms of numbers and figures as in pie charts and graphs and other representations. So that is wherein the human angle sometimes may get missing, which is again overgeneralization also. So now we can see that some quantitative data analysis methods are listed here, and some of the popular ones are the cross tabulation. So it is the most widely used methods when it comes to the data analysis method for quantitative data, and it is preferred because we use a basic tabular form to draw the inferences between different data sets in the research study. And then we also have the trend analysis. So trend analysis is quite important for businesses, and this is a statistical analysis method and provides the ability to look at quantitative data that has been collected over a long period of time. So now this data which has been collected over a substantial amount of time will tell us the trend. So it tells us the preferences of customers, how it is changing over time. So, maybe starting with people preferring a red car to now people preferring a car which is more tertiary in color, something like a gray, green kind of a color. So, how the preference is changing. Similarly, we see trends in the area of fashion. So, that is where we use this term, quite commonly, the trend, fashion trends, and other trends as well, behavior and other aspects of the customer as well. So, now this method which we are using to observe the trends over a longer period of time, so help they help us to understand the change in variables, considering one variable remains unchanged. So this is very helpful for businesses to see that what is trending now, what is it that the customers are preferring now. Even business models have undergone a lot of change because how the customer prefers the companies deal with them. So a lot of these changes that we are seeing are because of these trends that are observed and then they are applied in their business models. Then we have a gap analysis. So this is side by side matrix to depict data that helps measure the differences between expected performances and actual performances. So it tells us that what is the expected performance. So we want to reach X, but what is the actual performance? So the actual performance may still be at T. So how do we fill that gap? So there is still certain gap to reach from T to X. So how do we fill that gap? So that is an important method. And then SWOT analysis is another popular method. We have discussed this quite in depth in one of the previous lectures. So some of the methods of data analysis in quantitative methods are cluster analysis, regression analysis, Monte Carlo simulation, time series analysis, cohort analysis. And in qualitative, we have content analysis, sentiment analysis, thematic analysis, grounded theory analysis, and discourse analysis. So we will not go in depth in each of them, but these are some of the methods that are used in both of these methods. Now, these are some of the tools that are used for data analysis. And out of these, I think most of us will be familiar with Excel, which is a tool where we analyze the data. So, in data analysis, the deliverable at the end of the design, research, and analysis. So, here usually a usability report is generated out of all the data that we have analyzed. And this documents the outline, background, and methodology of usability test and key findings of user behavior, expectation, and challenges. Then we have the analytics report. So it uses the qualitative and quantitative data to analyze the past performance and summarizes the insights and provides recommendations. And we also have the persona and customer journey maps, which are the other deliverables that can support the report that we are coming up with at the end. So, at the end of the design, research, and analysis, we continue with market research. So, which is also known as the competitive analysis report, because here we are looking at that what are the, for example, other products in the market, what are different apps that are available. If you're looking at food delivery application design, then what are the other apps already available, which ones are working well, which ones are not working well, what kind of offers are being given, what are the charges for delivery, how much kilometer are they covering. So things like that, and how many, for example, food outlets are listed under them. So all of that information will be compared between different apps which are delivering food, for example. And the qualitative research report, so this has the data of studies using qualitative methods like interviews and diary studies and other methods that we have seen. And quantitative research report, so again, data received from the quantitative studies that we have conducted. So the deliverables at the end of the design, research, and analysis. So this is a user experience report deliverable. So this report starts with an introduction, so wherein we give an overview of the study that we have conducted. So the pain points that the company has. So if we are studying this whole user experience journey, then what are the pain points there? So what are the goals and the applications? So that we will be including in this introduction. The research goals are important because these are the key decisions that are to be made, and the research questions that are going to be used, the hypothesis, if we are starting with a hypothesis, and also the expectations that all will come under the research goal section, and the business values. So the if it is a company, if it is a business, then the company level goals, the team level goals, and product development goals. So all of those goals will be listed there. In the following section, we will also have methodology, that how are we going to achieve those goals that we have mentioned previously. So how are we going to achieve those research goals? So what methodology are we using, and why are we using this methodology? Why is it the most appropriate? So we have seen several examples of different ways to approach a problem. So which ones will be used for the problem at hand, and why? Of course, because it is the most appropriate. So then that selection has to be made very wisely. And then key learnings. So the recurring themes and trends that we have discussed. So the output from the methodology, once it's conducted, then we are analyzing it and coming up with these key learnings. And finally, the recommendations. So what are some of the specific solutions, some recommendations from the users, future research suggestions, and then also what would be the next follow up steps. So all of this will conclude the report, and maybe also the future steps. So which again, because we can extrapolate the trends that we have identified, so what can be expected 10 years from now? What would the customer expect in 10 years? Because as a design team, we are looking at always the future problems. So understanding the pain points of today, and also determining that what is it that the user needs, not today, but what would they need 5 years down the line, 10 years down the line. So that is a challenge for the design team, that how do we come up with something which the user also may not be aware of at this point, but they would really find delight in that product once it is out in their hands. So with this, we will end today's lecture, and I will see you in the next class. Thank you.